It's strange how these things can change so swiftly in a completely indecipherable instant. Like a calm and soothing sea that grows unexpectedly and catastrophically violent. Those riding the currents on the ever-shifting ripples like winds that this universe their way spits can choose to roll over and submit, or turn valiantly with grin or grimace to fight against it. The hive swarmed around the corner, finally in ship's sight, a chaotic cloud of drones all different, no two alike. Made of every imaginable materials, all shapes and size. Projectile harpoons, drilling or cutting tools, others had clamps like knives. They swarmed together towards the ship, as if of one mind. As Vox began nervously, he said,
5.
He adjusted thrust to reposition the ship perpendicular to them, and 4, he cried. The swarm bolted towards the ship with startling speed. Clenching his teeth, he said,
3.
As the swarm closed the gap between, Stott began to whisper to himself and shiver uncontrollably.
2.
Said Vox, growing louder now, but still counting down, which under the circumstances seemed to be ever so slowly.
1.
Vox tried to continue calmly, but his emotional control briefly breached and he screamed,
Go!
Stott extended the arm at full speed with the remote, and before it reached the full extension, he adeptly let go, sending the strapped-together stack of explosives in a solid throw, directly towards the swarm swiftly, and then he listened again as Vox spoke.
Brody, on first contact, tag the payload with mag rail. Briston, detach side armor, work direct hull contact detail. Stop, get in the turret, help keep these wiry creeps off our tail.
Then Briston wailed,
Nothing touches the ship, I will not fail!
The ship surged in sudden sideways motion to angle away. Elix watched on screen as Grody switched appendages to take aim. The swarm were closing the gap as the ship began to accelerate. Elix fought to stay awake under pressure and pain. As things began to blur from speed, Grody eased off the safety. Vox said,
Hold it just a sec, we could still be too close maybe.
As they approached top atmospheric speed, Grody asked, still waiting?
Light it up.
Grody squeezed the trigger and the sight was amazing. An orb of pure white enveloped the swarm as it swept out. The corridors shook and crumbled and the sides fell down. Miles upon miles of steel and concrete rubble flowing like spouts, crushing and mangling thousands of drones, but still more through other corridors came swinging about. The ship banked at crushing speed and Stott shouted, Captain, watch the heat! Pressure so great that Elix could barely even see. Vox replied calmly,
It appears to be 93.
The explosion pulverized and the corridors advanced rapidly, hungry to engulf the ship. Hivebots still dive-bombed and fired wired barbs with desperate attempts. Briston's sidearm suit now swung a massive plasma sword as it spinned, severing wires that managed to land any kind of tenuous grip, and Grody opened fire, deflecting a large bot to collide with another 10. The weapon had multiple barrels and looked like fire when it spit. Little rockets-seeking targets spewed out of each of 20 tips. Briston's suit could walk along the hull with magnetism. The sword he wielded glowed with all the colors of the prism. It spewed arcs of lightning as it ripped a bot in two in a clean schism, then firing from the hip he said,
At this range, you can't miss them.
Those shots sent 3 more bots thrashing, tumbling at a glance. As just behind them, the white explosion still advanced. It must have spread miles already, but through the corridors it still danced. Ever spreading as if fed by the matter it absorbed, it was enhanced. The ship screamed as it strained with all its power.
97.
Elix felt a strange and brief moment of understanding. Unstrapped his tethers, then had trouble standing. He lurched as Vox said,
We might have to make a forced landing.
He searched for something hot, something radiating heat. Still hadn't found anything after a quick search of what he could see. Spotted what looked like a lower access hatch and went to take a peek, and practically fell into a room so hot he could barely breathe. 98% heat, said Vox as Elix started to sing. His mind was hazy and he couldn't concentrate on a thing. He briefly caught a slight hint of a cooling sort of string, and he began to sing it softly into the stifling heat. It didn't work at first because he'd forgotten certain parts. He tried again and failed again on his second attempt to start. 99% heat, but if we put it down, they'll tear us apart. And that's when it clicked, remembered he took a breath to restart. As he sang the song, a cloud of icy air gathered around. It spread in snowy tendrils, bringing the heat down. It grew and seeped into the machinery that surrounded, and he heard a voice cut through his singing.
Oh, that's astounding! Temperature is rapidly dropping. What the Stott? Double check.
Stott took only a second to reply. The temperature is dropping, yes! Vox came back saying,
Temp's already down to 92%. I don't know how, but we'll take what we can get. As soon as we break atmo, we'll jump.
Woohoo! Down to 83%, it's a miracle, dude!
Grody and Briston, all aboard. Dock your suits.
As Elix continued to softly sing down in the engine room, core temperature dropping like the bots who were now falling behind, the ship prepared to jump as they took in the final sight. The planet looked like a giant had taken a fiery bite, the surface of Relian now scarred by a crater a quarter its own size.